Canada's home builders are meeting in Halifax. There's plenty to talk about, from a federal building plan to tariffs and costs. Kevin Lee is CEO of the Canadian Home Builders Association. He joins us from Halifax. Kevin Lee, good to see you. Look, as I mentioned, there's lots to talk about. There's also some mixed messages, it would seem, in the economy. Interest rates are down, but sales are also down in big Canadian cities. What's the sentiment among your colleagues, builders in the room there right now?
Yeah, well, it's really different sentiment all across the country. Overall, things are down, especially, as you mentioned, with the trade war alive and well, unfortunately, with our friends south of the border. But, you know, in certain provinces, things are really, really bad. I'll say Ontario is in really tough times. About 64% of our members there are laying people off right now. BC is not too far behind. Here in Atlantic Canada, not quite so bad. It's been better times, but there's definitely more we can do. We're certainly a long way away from being able to double housing starts, so lots more to be done from a government policy perspective.
It seems like a bit of a head scratcher, right? Because we hear so much about the need for skilled workers and just how many more people we need in the system to build the houses that Canada's in desperate need of, and then at the same time you're talking about layoffs in some parts of the country.
Absolutely, and it is, you know, it's actually pretty simple, and people don't think of it this way very often, but we can't build them if people can't buy them. And so there's a lot of things that have been working against affordability, especially, you know, in market rate housing and home ownership. There's been a lot of support in recent times for purpose-built rental, and right here in Halifax, we've seen a big takeoff in purpose-built rental, and we do need more rental. But when it comes to housing that people can afford to own, that's been a big challenge, from construction costs to taxation rising. And yeah, we do have labor shortages, which you'd be hearing about a lot more if we had more construction activity. But when people can't afford to buy homes or in this environment are very potentially nervous about buying homes because of consumer confidence with respect to the trade war, we're just not seeing enough activity, and it's really challenging in some places.
Is the right type of housing being built? Here in some cities in the Maritimes, we're seeing high rises. There's a desire for townhomes and single-family dwellings. Are the new starts meeting the demand?
I guess it depends on how you look at it, because if you ask most Canadians, they aspire to live in some sort of ground-oriented housing, for the most part. There's certainly people who prefer to live in a high-rise. But in general, Canadians look to ground-oriented housing. Now, it's not a case of young people going, wow, I want that single detached home in some urban center. That's obviously more challenging these days, just because of the cost of everything that we've been talking about. But definitely Canadians tend to look towards, you know, an entry-level home that's going to be more ground oriented. It could be a town, it could be stacked towns, maybe a semi-detached if you're lucky. If you get further away from town, you might get that small single detached home. But that's where Canadians are really looking, and that's the problem. We're seeing a lot less and less of that, with housing affordability being such a challenge. We're seeing much more purpose-built rental. Just to give you a stat, in 2021, about 70% of the houses that we were building in Canada, be them high-rise, mid-rise, or low-rise, were destined for ownership. Now in 2025, it's only 50% of starts. And so we really do need to find ways to get more housing that people can afford to buy back into place. And again, government policy can go a long way to help that.
Kevin, I think when people think of costs that are associated with building, we go to the obvious places, right? The cost of staffing, the cost of materials. What about things like, I don't know, permits and building codes? How does that add to costs, and is that having an impact?
It definitely is. I mean, you're right. Like, construction costs are up. Like, to give you a sense, nationally, on average, a 2,400 square foot home since pre-COVID compared to now is up about $100,000. So that's a lot of money. But there are other things that are really affecting the cost of housing. We got to go to taxation first right away, because why do we have so much tax on housing? And again, the federal government is looking at removing GST for first-time buyers. It still hasn't come through. That has to get through the House of Commons. That'll be important. But that's only going to, they estimate estimate that's only going to support about 5.8% of new construction. So most of new construction is from people downsizing to smaller homes, people moving from their starter home to a more family-sized home. So we're really pushing for more to be done on the GST, be expanded to all buyers. The other huge part that's been rising to the tune of 700% over the past 25 years is development charges. And we need to get those under control. We need to get those scaling back. In our larger cities, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. Here in Halifax, it's still climbing, and we need to find alternative ways to fund new infrastructure and not put it on the backs of the buyers of new homes, because frankly, it's not something that used to happen in the past. And if we want to be more fair to the next generation of Canadians, we need to find better ways to deal with taxation and spread it across the whole tax base and not expect the new buyer to have to do it, because frankly, most of us who live in existing homes didn't have to do it in the past.
Yeah. Before I let you go, let me make sure I got that right. 700%?
That is correct. It's a big number, and you see it in the price of housing, so it needs to come down.
I think, gave us a lot to think about here this afternoon, Kevin Lee. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
You bet. Thanks for having me anytime.
We will take a break. We'll be back with much more of your Monday evening newscast.